take the time, if you're in a position to hire somebody, even if it's a project or whatever, take your time to find a great person. And that most often means doing what Google does. They rarely hire from an ad. They may be legally required to post an ad, but they let their employees know, who do you think is awesome for a position like this? Use your referral network. Trust that, because unfortunately, as a career counselor who's worked with a zillion people, there's a whole lot of BSing that goes on in the application process.
You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question: what has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the business psychologist, the author of the 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series, as well as the founder of Tap the Potential, where we coach entrepreneurs like you to design sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Because after all, we believe work supports life, not the other way around. Weekly on the Profit by Design podcast, we bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. Profit Designers, the 4-Week Vacation, the entrepreneur's ultimate guide to taking your life back from your business, is now available. Go to 4weekvacation.com, grab a copy of the book, and be sure to follow the steps there to claim your bonuses. When you purchase the book, you are eligible to join me for my upcoming live training, the 4-Week Vacation Better Business, Better Life Jumpstart. Plus, and you'll also get an invitation to an exclusive VIP closed door training with me to identify the true profit potential within your business. Just follow the steps at 4weekvacation.com, and I hope that the 4-Week Vacation book inspires you for what's possible. It's time to take your life back from your business. Well, welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist and the author of the 4-Week Vacation, as well as the How to Hire the Best series. And we are joined today with my guest, Dr. Marty Nemko, who is a career coach. So some things that are interesting to know about Marty is, one, he's very prolific. He's been writing articles and content for years with good, life strategy, practical wisdom, I think is what is the sense that I got. And I connected with you because we cited one of your articles in the 4-Week Vacation, and it was an interview with another professional, and really going through the buffer effects of relationships and how they can help us reduce our stress load. And then as I got to digging in, I saw all the things that you've written, and I thought, wow, we can just have a really good conversation here about life. And I think it's so important in this day and age. There's so much stress that people are under and things that we're navigating, some just practical wisdom to help us get grounded and focus on what really matters. Another interesting thing to know about Marty is that you completed your Ph.D. at Berkeley, and you feel like really life has been much more valuable in teaching you wisdom than going through the doctoral program. And I will tell you, it's very different. I have a doctoral degree from UT, and I worked so hard to get that thing. And I thought, boy, it's somehow magic. Something's going to happen once I have it. Nothing magical happened. Life was still challenging. And I agree that really the value that I got out of it is the life experience and just the different things I was exposed to, and getting to live in Austin and having an incredible early 20s because of that. So, Marty, tell me a little bit from where you are in the work that you're doing today. What is your sense of what people are needing most right now?
There's no question stress is big, but again, there's no magic answer. Sometimes relationships are buffers, to use your term, from stress, and sometimes they're exacerbators of stress. We all know, unfortunately, 50% of couples divorce. who are married, and we know that of those who stay together, some are schlepping along, some are fighting along. So relationships can be a source of strength, and they can also be a huge source of stress. So, it's not sexy, but the reality is that one size does not fit all. What we're going to try to talk about is options, things that can make an individual be more likely to be happier and lower stress.
Yeah. So you talk about relationships. They can be a source of stress or they can buffer stress. What are some tips that you have come across that really can be helpful when we have important relationships that are creating stress?
The most important thing is, again, not sexy, but as I get older, what's more important to me than anything is not being liked, but saying what I've had over 6,000 clients. And one of the things that I've seen is work is that people are not as malleable as we say. We both have PhDs in psychology-related fields, and there is this assumption that we're infinitely malleable, that if only we talked more, communicated better, held hands more, had date nights, then all's going to be good. But the truth is that people are not that malleable. And so the best advice I can give you is if your rational and emotional sense tells you, you know what, despite whatever reasonable amount of work we're going to put in this relationship, it ain't going to work, cut your losses. And find somebody who's either better fit or, importantly, recognizing that many people are happier and more contributory alone than with a partner who is, to use the technical term, suboptimal. That's my number one piece of advice. That said, yes, as we talked about off the air, you're right that having regular meetings to discuss what's really going on and it is fixable is worth doing. One more little thing I want to say and then I'll shut up. Some things we know are not going to change. My wife and I are different on some factors, and we have been together, would you believe, for 49 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, or it's the triumph of hope over experience. Anyway, but some things we know, one of the keys to our marriage working, it's not made in heaven, but it works here on earth, is that there are some things that are immutable. We're not going to be able to fix certain personality characteristics, strong behavioral desires. So what we do is we accept that crap, but we do the things together that work for us. And that's the other thing. If you're going to be together, you sure have those 10 meetings for a while, but then accept, I'm not saying you should be abused. No, that's unacceptable. Accept what cannot be or is very unlikely to be changed and focus on what works together for the couple.
That is great advice. And I couldn't agree more. We have to accept there's certain things about one another that we are who we are. And so I'm really curious to take what you're sharing here and put it in a different realm, and let's bring it into the workplace, because I find there's so much that we can learn from what we learn in our personal lives to how we do relationships in the workplace and vice versa. And I'm interested because you, on the career coaching side, you talk to a lot of people who probably have been unhappy in their jobs. They're trying to figure out what to do. They have difficult bosses, whatever. On the small business coaching side, I talk to the business owners who are constantly just feeling like they need to pull their hair out dealing with employee issues. So I think we can have a really interesting discussion around this. One of the things that I see is business owners who will have a great team member. They try and try and try to make it work, but there may be something that's just off in that relationship, and they try and try and try, just kind of like what you were describing in a marriage. What is it that you see when you're talking with individuals who are employed and there's strife in their workplace relationships? What's going on that side of things?
First of all, at the risk of redundancy, there's no question. There was an old book called From Good to Great, in which the author said the most important thing a manager ever does is hire right. Because again, malleability is less than the self-help gurus or Oprah says that, is possible. So take the time, if you're in a position to hire somebody, even if it's a project or whatever, take your time to find a great person. And that most often means doing what Google does. They rarely hire from an ad. They may be legally required to post an ad, but they let their employees know, who do you think is awesome for a position like this? Use your referral network. Trust that, because unfortunately, as a career counselor who's worked with a zillion people, there's a whole lot of BSing that goes on in the application process.
No.
Right. So you're going to trust what a trusted employee says more than what is on the application. because I'm not going to give away the things that people do because I don't want to spread those kind of things. But trust me, the best thing you can do is hire. But that said, now you've got a worker, and you said kind of two sides of something. You said he's a really great worker, but there's an issue. Of course, it's worth usually, by a basic principle I'm about to say is, people are much more interested in preserving their self-esteem than in improving. They're much more interested in improving their self-esteem than improving. So when you want somebody to improve, you better damn well be sure you are trying to protect their self-esteem, and I'll explain how. You can't hit them over the head. You need to be, unless the person is so impervious, so defended that they will not hear anything. But in general, you do have to sugarcoat. You have to couch. So I will give you an example. Let's say, Sabrina, you are working for me. And let's say, let's take a simple example first. We can do harder ones if you want. But let's say you just take long lunch hours, right? I really need you here at after 45 minutes, and you're typically an hour and 15 minutes or whatever. I'll say, Sabrina, you got a moment? Can we chat? I always feel a little uncomfortable giving, criticism. I love the good stuff you do. You're really good with the customers, and you stay calm under pressure. You're awesome. I got one little concern, and maybe I'm misunderstanding something. I notice, we've talked about, and you agree, and all the other workers, we take 45-minute lunches, and too often you go to an hour, and sometimes even an hour and a half. Am I misunderstanding something about what's going on? I listen my ass off, and then I'm saying, I start with do the stupid sandwiching thing. I start with the positive, and then I'm going to end with the positive. And then in the middle, I'm going to gently raise the issue and say, am I misunderstanding something? Or am I reading you right? Or what's going on? Or how can I help? Or we are in to be honest, a modern feminist world in which everything is much more likely to be couched, process-oriented. You can't say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of you showing up an hour late. That just doesn't work in the modern world, even in Texas.
Mm-hmm. So I cannot agree with you more on what you've shared, and that what really caught my attention, though, is preserving the self-esteem, that we're much more interested in preserving self-esteem than improving. And so when performance feedback is given, that am I giving it in a way that it's going to preserve someone's self-esteem? Because in my experience, when we somehow threaten self-esteem, that's where we see all the puffing up or defensiveness comes out. And so at Tap the Potential, we talk about, let's create a safe, supported environment where, we can be real and we can give straightforward feedback. All of that has to happen before you can do that. And I also like that, but let's also hold attention to, are we making sure that as we're giving that straightforward feedback, that we are preserving that person's self-esteem? Let's make it about the behavior rather than about who they are as a person. And who they are as a person is, oh, you're a terrible employee, or it's terrible that you're showing up late after lunch because now you're causing all these problems. That's going to cause that defensiveness.
Well, let's make sure that the viewers are clear on what the difference between straightforward is and couching. Straightforward means, what I would rather say in terms of giving feedback is, there are times you need to say, my calculus says that it's better for me to just let this slide. If you hit everything, you're going to usually pay too big a price. And then once you decide, damn it, I really need to mention this, you can't be too straightforward. You're going to get defensiveness. You have to be very gentle. Straightforward is, I'm sick and tired of you damn showing up late. I'm sick and tired of your low quality work. I'm sick and tired of you whining all the time. You can't do that. That's straightforward. That doesn't work. It has to be, I've noticed you seem unhappy. There's a lot that you seem to be unhappy about at work. Is there something you need to couch? You need to first decide whether you want to avoid it and then couch. You can't be too straightforward. Not in today's era.
I think we're talking about the same thing and using different language. And when you're describing couching, what I'm hearing is you're describing the behavior and you're leaving off all the judgment. And that judgment is like, gosh, dog it, all these things that you're doing, you can't do this anymore. And so when you're giving that feedback in that way, it creates an environment where it's going to be a better conversation. In your experience, I'm curious on a career coaching side of things with the great resignation happening across the country. What are you hearing people talk about? What are some of the common themes?
Yeah, there was an interesting study came out of MIT a couple of days ago that said that it was really not money. It is culture and comfort, environment, and treated with respect. And that makes a certain amount of sense. It's been old data that shows that our retention on a job is much more dependent on being respected, having meaningful work, having fun, which, by the way, is also the MIT study, which shocked me because I'm kind of a serious guy. But people like to have that social activity, they like the parties. I've had some clients say, oh, no, I hate having to go to the TGIF or the company picnic. But apparently, at least in this MIT study, a lot of people like the picnic, the TGIF, et cetera. So culture more than money is key.
That sense of connectedness and feeling connected to their work.
For certain people. Some people are what we'll call the Silicon Valley types who just want to sit in front of their computer. They hate the social life crap. But a lot of people, and yes, it is disproportionately women, are about, use the word connectedness. It's axiomatic in the field of psychology. Women are heavily about connection. Not all, but disproportionately. And so especially in a female-centric workplace like my wife's superintendent of schools in Napa County, it is very female-centric. And they have all kinds of ice cream socials, and they dress up for Halloween, and they celebrate each other's birthdays, and they've got their pictures up on the wall. Not every workplace is that, but especially if you have a female-centric workplace, connection, to use your term, is important and crucial to the culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what I find really interesting is I coach a lot of male business owners in construction, landscape. So these are predominantly male teams. And we survey the A players on their teams. I would say it's a good mix of men and women. Oftentimes we'll have the office teams and some of the lead techs in the field is typically who respond. And when we ask them, what do you appreciate most about where you work? It's, I'm treated with respect and it feels like family. Fun is in there, but it's not as prominent as the connection, and basic respect goes such a long way, and I think I always say to business owners, I know you feel like you can't provide all these perks and bonuses and sign-on bonuses and everything that's going on out there, and you feel pressure to do it. But if you can focus on building connection and respect in your business, that's going to go a long way to retain the team members that you want and also attract more of the ones that you want. So I want to shift here, Marty, and one of the things that you're famous for saying is that do what you love and starve. Tell me about your experience with this.
I love theater and music. I'm a professional pianist for years when I was a teenager. And so I understand and appreciate the arts more than most people. But I have found so many sad stories of people who followed what is the Oprah Syndrome. They said, you can dream if you can dream and you can do it. Do what you love and the money will follow. And too often they do what they love and they starve. The number of people disillusioned who have trekked from Austin to Hollywood in hopes of, they were stars in their college plays or they had this band that got great, whatever. And they go to Hollywood and they want to be stars. And then 2 or 3 years later, they come back with a tail between their legs and sad. Or I have one client who was this avid environmentalist, and she worked for the cause because she believed in the cause. But the hypocrisy of these nonprofits, they say we value people, but they ended up making her work as a volunteer or a little project. Now she's older and she's starting to have health problems. And she is living in Section 8 housing, government welfare housing, and can't afford health insurance. So she did what she loved and she starved. So you need to balance idealism with realism. Of course, if you are, you're starting, let's say you want to be this great actor or a musician or a creative or whatever, and that's what you love, you live for, you can't imagine not being that. You give it a shot, but you time delimit it, whether it be 6 months or a year, even 2 years. But then you look realistically. You can't count on people who praise you who don't pay you. What counts are when people say you're great and they're willing to pay you, because teachers it's in their interest to be positive and supportive. It's much better your real clear-eyed feedback is going to come from whether people are paying you. And if not, you've got to say, is the risk-reward ratio better for me to go continue on my creative outlet path, Or like so many people using their music or their art or their juggling or their magic or whatever their hobby is and doing it as a serious sideline where you can more likely enjoy the fruits of your performing. Whereas if you're a professional actor, you're probably going to be waiting for an audition, and then you've got a tiny part. And so that's why do what you love, and too often the money will not follow. You will starve.
I really liked what you said about give a time limit of when you should see results. And it's so true. People vote with their dollars. And when you choose to have a serious hobby and you have another profession or career that supports it, it is a lot more fun to do that hobby. I'm an avid knitter. If I relied on income from knitting, I would starve because people don't pay what the time that goes into any kind of project. And so in terms of the work supports life conversation, I think it's really interesting because we have a lot of business owners who they work all the time in the business trying to just keep things together. And then we take them through our program at Tap the Potential, and they get to a place where they have more free time because the business has gotten better at running on its own. And then they're in that place of, I wonder what's next. Well, the nice part about I wonder what's next is typically they're not reliant on the income from whatever they choose next. Their business is providing the income. So then they have that freedom to go off and do, and a lot of times it's reconnecting with whatever they were passionate about, in their teens and 20s that they totally lost touch with, and having that opportunity later in life to really enjoy those endeavors.
As I get older, I'm well aware that most people treasure work-life balance, whether it be with family or creative outlet or sports or video games or whatever the hell it is, or knitting, which is very meditative. I think it's a lovely hobby, no question. But I also know that some of the most satisfied people defy the standard rule. Nobody wishes they spent more time on their deathbed. Nobody wishes they spent more time at the office. That's not true. People who have rewarding work lives would much rather take hours 40 through 70 and work on their business or their nonprofit or their self-employment or whatever, then, I'm supposed to have work-life balance, so I'm going to play Monopoly with my kids, or I'm going to go. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay attention to your family, but I can tell you that some of the most contributory people I know, the most contented people I know, spend hours 40 to 70 choosing, even if they're worth millions, choosing to work on their business because they find that is what they are meant to do. That's what gives them the most reward. And it feels like frittering away time to be pulling weeds in the garden, to be hanging out with kids, or make leisurely long dinners. And so again, one size does not fit all. You need it. We tend to pathologize people who work long hours as workaholics. But in some ways they're heroic. They're choosing to spend time making a difference. It's usually not for the money. It's to make more of a contribution using their best skills. And that is what I would encourage more people to not feel like you're a workaholic, but you are heroic. The thing you said when you introduced me, you said it off the air and you said it on, how impressed with you were at how prolific I am. Well, I am prolific because I've chosen to work 70 hours a week. And that doesn't age you. You're flowering. You are being who you are meant to be. And so I want to stress that one size does not fit all.
Yeah, what strikes me is that you're doing something you love, that you feel passionate about, and it's your contribution, it's your gift. And what it makes me think about is we have some of our clients who've taken a 4-week vacation, and they say, and I've even done this myself on my 4-week vacation, I'm not on vacation, I'm writing a book, or I'm doing this other thing that I really want to throw myself into that contributes to the business or contributes in some way. And all my journey of trying to sort out my own work-life balance, one of the things that I've come to is the simple question of, does this give me energy? Does it fill me up and give me something to give back, or is it draining my energy?
For what it's worth, and I think I am unusual, I'm not going to say that other people should be like this. I don't work 70 hours a week because I'm doing what I love. That's incorrect. I am doing it because I feel that that the cosmic meaning of life is to make the biggest difference we can, even if it's not fun. Mother Teresa could not have been having fun when she was in the streets of Calcutta, the stinking sewage, being her ankles bitten by scorpions. But she did it because she felt it was the right thing to do. It was the most contributory way she could live. I would much rather play with my doggie, play the piano, hang out with my wife, go hiking, go in Trader Joe's, than writing or seeing another client. And yet I almost always opt to see another client, write another article, etc., because I believe the meaning of life defines in what percentage, the more of our heartbeats that we can spend in contribution using our best skills, the better. Why am I talking with you at 8 o'clock in the morning here? It's not for money. It's not. I would have much rather fun eating a cinnamon roll and coffee, but I feel it's contributory. As you can tell, I'm giving you my best, not because it's so fun. I'm giving you my best because I think it's the best way I can use these heartbeats. So I think this, do it because it's fun is often a mistake.
I love that. That is about the contribution and show up and make a contribution. We have an immutable law at Tap the Potential of be a gift from our gifts. And that very much aligns with what you're sharing, that we all have certain gifts that we're blessed with to bring forward in the world. And you're clearly intent on making a contribution from your gifts, Marty. I love that. One other interesting conversation piece is you talk about the cart, and I'm really curious about that and what that means to you.
That's funny. I'm happy to talk about the cart. It's okay. It's interesting. But I'm going to do something very weird just because our goal, again, is to make the biggest difference we can. And I want to demonstrate that. You would say, what in the world does playing the piano have to do with making a difference, contribution? I was just saying that, no, you can't make a living doing that. But I play the piano. I was gifted. I have many things I'm bad at. I can't fix anything. I just call the guy because I can't fix anything. But I am born as a pianist. I really was able, even though I grew up in a tenement in the Bronx, I was able to play by ear. I was watching kids in the back, and there was a vacant lot, and the kids were banging, and I was able to immediately, by ear, pick up chopsticks. And I was playing professionally when I was 12. And now I've developed a hand condition. I want to show you. I can't play with this finger. I can't play with this finger. And I can't play with 3 fingers. So I'm going to play the piano for you for a few reasons. One, to talk about resilience. And I could easily have folded. I've been a basketball player my whole life. I played the piano my whole life. I could have said, damn it, look, it doesn't hurt at all, but I've got this rare condition that makes my 3 fingers basically unusable. I want to play something for you for inspiration purposes. And also I integrate this into my piano, into my career counseling, into everything when we want to get out of our intellectual headspace and into something that's more feeling centric. And so I want to play something. And the final reason I'm going to play something I wrote, because what it does is it mirrors the process that most people who come for help, whether it's to your website, to your training program, to my counseling, whether to reading or listening to podcasts, they start out sad. They start out unhappy. And then they slowly make progress. Then they get a big win, and then they're back to being peaceful. I'm going to play something that demonstrates that. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
you go.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Now, the cart. You want to hear, but still want to hear about the cart, or you had it, or no?
I just want to comment. It's a lovely piece, and it's exactly as you described it, that it describes that emotional experience of when something is not right and we're going to seek out help for it, what that feels like, and then that experience of things gradually better, and then the big win and the return to peace. It's all in there, and it's beautiful. And you said you're sharing it in a way to just connect with the audience emotionally, but also to speak about resilience. And it's incredible to me how well you played, and there's clear you had to do a lot of work around, I imagine. So I'm a little curious about your process with physically. How did you come to the point of working around?
Surprising. Yeah. What I did is I ignored it. Like I said, I don't read music. I just play by ear. And what I did was I just, in the moment, just ignored. I just pretended I had 10 fingers. And when I reached a note that I couldn't play because I can't use the pinky or I can't use this finger, I just found a way to adapt in the moment. Not playing, not prepared. I said, oh shit, I can't. I didn't say, oh shit, even. It's not even a cognitive process. It's, oh, I can't use that finger. And I just automatically used a different finger or shrugged my shoulders when I couldn't. Like we said, we all have limitations, whether it be a finger or that we're not that smart. We're not allowed to say the word intelligence anymore, but it's true. Not everybody is that intellectually brilliant. So it's the wise person skirts their weakness. I'm not a good team player. I never work on a committee. I am a solo operator. I recognize it's a weakness. It's like a weak pinky. So the key is to skirt your weaknesses and build on your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I also hear in, though, there was significant intention, like you know that what you're trying to accomplish. And instead of worrying about the how, you just stayed focused on, I'm trying to produce this. And it's just, you trusted your body. You trusted that your body was going to figure it out.
I think that's kind of right. It's a little more Buddhist than I would be about it. Intention and trust your body. That's not where I am. I'm about staying focused. It wasn't even the intention. It's whatever. Right now, you can sense I'm with you. I'm with you every second. But there is no intention. There is no being in touch. It is, I'm listening my ass off to you. I'm being in the moment, saying it is wise for me to listen. You never interrupt, which is nice. I'm a disgusting, interrupter. I am only thinking in the moment. What's wise for me to say? What's wise for me to listen in that moment? That's all it is.
Presence.
I'm very present. Absolutely. That's true.
Yeah. So tell us about the card.
Oh, right. Okay. I've learned that MBA programs in general increase the chances of a person's failure as an entrepreneur because they venerate, that's a fancy word for honor, they venerate complexity, scalability. You need money to make money. Here's how you raise money in your Series A. Here's how how you deal with the banks, the venture capitalists. Here's how you consolidate. Here's how you merge, acquisition. All of those, every bit of complexity increases the risk of failure. And unless you're super wealthy, you're going to run out of money. Far better to go ultra simple. Another of my phrases that I love to use, which is relevant here, is that status is the enemy of contentment. It is, of course, not sexy to own a coffee cart or a gift cart where you're selling UT, Austin football, Longhorn, whatever those is, T-shirts. But in the end, most people's contentment, as well as money, derive from doing a good quality job at whatever. So if I were forced to, if I were broke and homeless, and I wanted to make money doing what I'm calling a cart business, I would get some little used cart and I would put UT Longhorn shit that the people would want to buy. I buy it right from the best source. I take my time to find the best, most inexpensive source that provides reasonable quality and value. I take the time to find the best damn location near the whatever Longhorn Stadium or whatever the hell it's called. And before game day, I am at legal, whatever is legal, as close as I can come to the stands without violating their laws. I am going to make my money and serve people. I'd be making jokes with them. I would sell that crap. And what's beautiful about that business is it is simple. There's no rent. You have very little overhead. It is completely ethical. There's minimal regulation, unlike if it's a food business. Forget that. And I don't know about in Texas, but certainly in California, regulations will kill you. You can't. It's very, very hard to succeed in a business that's like food or whatever, or wine or marijuana, which is big here, alas, in California. But a little cart business, whether it be with umbrellas in the bad weather, or Valentine's Day, not cliched gifts, but things that are more heartful, that are more meaningful, selling those and being very careful about choosing the products, listening to your customer, all that can be a much simpler way. And then once you've got one cart working well, clone it, have another, have your friend who you trust is not going to rob you, run the second cart. And now you keep cloning until you have, say, a half a dozen. And now you're making enough money that you have time for your 4-week vacation.
Yes, complexity is the enemy of profit. It's the enemy of quality of life. It's just the enemy. And so I love just how simple you made that analogy. And many of our listeners have come from bootstrapping. So I think they really appreciate how you describe that. And it's a great reminder of, if we're in the middle of something and it feels very complex in our business, I think we really need to ask that question of, how can we just make this simple? Let's get back to simple and pay attention to what the customers need most. And how do we provide the greatest value? So thank you for just kind of bringing that right back down to earth, Marty. I appreciate that.
One other simplification which is, I have had a very busy practice my whole life. And at some point I said, this is crazy. I need to outsource. And so what I did is I found 4 other career counselors. They had great reviews and whatever. And I simply brought them on. And after a year, I let them all go because it added ridiculous complexity. Better I should work and do it myself than have to explain complaints from the no-shows that they didn't show up for the client and the counselor was annoyed, or the client said, this wasn't like Marty Nemko, this person was very different. I just said, you know what, keep it simple. This is really good. Of course, I had a house cleaner, and you know what, I let her go because I try to be a caring person. I ended up listening to her about her life all the time. She wanted to tell me all about her children and about this and about that. And I was spending a huge amount of time taking care of her. And I said, I'm sitting all day with my clients. I'm sitting all day writing. I'm sitting all day, whatever, making videos. You know what? It's better for me to clean my own toilets. I can get off my ass and be, cleaning toilets or mopping floors or whatever. I am much happier. So my life is incredibly simple. No employees, no nothing. I don't do any billing. Every one of my client sessions, they either PayPal me up front or I have a credit card. So there's no billing, there's no nothing. I keep things really simple, and I make a good living keeping things really simple.
I love that. This wonderful life wisdom about where can we keep things simple. And I chuckled when you commented about your housekeeper, and I thought, I wonder how many psychologists have this problem with their housekeeper. I had a housekeeper years ago where it was the same issue, and it was to the point where I just dreaded her coming over because I knew I was going to have to live. Exactly. So, yeah, as we wrap up, Marty, I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can follow your work and how they can get in touch with you.
The easiest thing is just Google me, and you'll see a ton. I've written now 2,240 articles in the last 7 years for Psychology Today. I've written for Time, at the U.S. News, the Atlantic. Just Google me, and you'll see all kinds of stuff that I've written. And it's all free. There's no paywalls. There's nothing. You just enjoy and benefit, hopefully. I also have over 700 YouTube videos. So if you Google me and you look on the YouTube channel, on the video channel, you'll see more than you can stomach. And I write about everything that's practical. Today's Psychology Today article is about humor, how to be funnier and how to be more appreciative of other people's humor. So it's everything that's practical in life. But if you want to see me, my practice is quite full. But what I ask people to do is email me a description of the situation. I may well just give you some free advice. It's fine. Or I may say, you know what, I think it's well for us to work together. I'll offer you appointment time. So my email address is mnemko, that's M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, E-M as in Mary, K-O @comcast.net.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us, Marty. I appreciate you.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Join our conversation in the Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back
Facebook community at tapthepotential.com/group. Share your aha moments from today's episode, ask me questions, and join in on the fun with your fellow entrepreneurs on the journey to designing sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. And finally, share today's episode with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this. If you've gotten value from today's show, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you are a repeat listener of the podcast, know that we greatly appreciate you at Tap the Potential. And to that end, I have a request. Please consider leaving us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Our reviews help other entrepreneurs like you to find us. Be a part of our movement to help entrepreneurs take your life back from your business.